I was sitting in the championship winner's circle, watching strangers cheer my name while inside I was drowning. Ironic for someone who'd spent her entire life mastering water. That's the thing about achievement. It can feel hollow when there's no one who matters there to witness it. The golden medal hung heavy around my neck as camera flashes assaulted my vision, reporters shoving microphones toward my forced smile. Sarah Kelly, 3-time national rowing champion. How does it feel? Like nothing. Absolutely nothing. My phone buzzed against my hip. Another congratulatory text from my mother who couldn't be bothered to show up. The cool September breeze carried the scent of the lake water across the ceremony platform, that familiar mixture of algae and freedom that usually centered me. Today, it just made me sick. 2 weeks later, I stood in downtown Raleigh beneath a sky-threatening rain, clipboard in hand, stopping disinterested pedestrians for a community sports facility survey. How the mighty fall, from championship podiums to street corners. The coaching gig paid bills but required community outreach hours spent watching people actively avoid eye contact. Excuse me, would you mind? Another rejection. My 10th that morning. The first fat raindrop hit my clipboard, smearing the ink on my quota sheet. Perfect. I turned to pack up when a voice stopped me. I've got 5 minutes if you still need responses. I looked up into clear blue eyes that matched the vanishing sky. Blonde hair pulled into a messy bun, athletic build beneath a simple gray sweater. Something about her stance, confident but relaxed, shoulders aligned perfectly, told me she was an athlete before she said a word. And you're too late, I said, gesturing at the darkening clouds. Unless you enjoy getting soaked for the sake of municipal budget allocation. She laughed, a warm sound that seemed to momentarily push back the incoming storm. And Molly. And I've made worse decisions than getting wet for a good cause. The way she said it made my pulse quicken. I hadn't felt that in a long time. Question 1, I said, trying to focus on the smearing ink. How would you rate the current water sports facilities in Raleigh? Inadequate. Her answer was immediate. And a university has decent equipment, but nothing for the public that isn't 30 years old. I raised an eyebrow. You sound like you know what you're talking about. Former competitive swimmer. I miss the water every damn day. The rain began falling in earnest now, but neither of us moved. Droplets clung to her eyelashes, and I found myself counting them instead of tallying her responses. When she spoke about swimming, her hands moved through the air in perfect form strokes. Something ached in me. Recognition, maybe. The particular loneliness of an athlete without a current. Last question, I said, though I had at least 5 more. My clipboard was nearly soaked through. What would make you return to water sports? She stepped closer, under the minimal shelter of my pathetic survey stand. I could smell her perfume now, something citrusy and clean that cut through the petrichor of rain-soaked concrete. And so right invitation, she said, her eyes holding mine. My hand trembled as I wrote nothing on my waterlogged paper. And Thai coach rowing at Lake Johnson, I heard myself say. On Tuesday mornings at 6. If you're serious about getting back in the water. She took the soggy business card I offered, her fingers brushing mine for a moment longer than necessary. The contact sent electricity up my arm that had nothing to do with the distant thunder. And I might just take you up on that, Sarah Kelly, she said, reading my name off the card. I've always wondered what it feels like to fly across the water instead of cutting through it. I watched her walk away, blonde hair darkening in the rain as she disappeared into the crowd. My heart raced with something I'd forgotten, anticipation, possibility. I didn't realize until much later that night, lying awake and replaying our conversation, that I had never told her I was a coach, and she had never mentioned what question had brought her to my survey stand in the first place. Tuesday dawned with the kind of golden light that photographers chase their whole lives. I arrived an hour early to prep the boats, my hands moving through the familiar routine while my mind wandered elsewhere, to blue eyes and a laugh that had haunted me for days. She wouldn't show. People rarely followed through on impulsive promises made to strangers in the rain. When footsteps crunched on the gravel path behind me, I didn't turn right away, afraid of the disappointment I'd feel when it was just Catherine arriving for her regular session. Is this where I sign up to fly? My heart stuttered. Definitely not Catherine's voice. Molly stood at the edge of the dock, wearing compression shorts and a light jacket zipped to her chin. The sunrise painted her blonde hair copper and gold, like a halo around her uncertain smile. You came, I said stupidly. I said I would. She shrugged, shifting her weight from one foot to the other. Boy, though I'm already regretting these shoes. Not exactly boat-friendly. I glanced down at her chunky running shoes and smiled. First lesson, proper footwear. But we'll make do today. The lake stretched before us, mirror-smooth in the early morning stillness. Mist clung to the surface like reluctant ghosts, swirling as it evaporated in the strengthening sunlight. Fall was just beginning to touch the trees surrounding the lake, splashing crimson and amber against the green. "It's beautiful," she whispered, her eyes wide as she took in the scene. "Tints is the best time," I agreed. "Before the world wakes up. Before the water remembers it's supposed to be anything but glass." I showed her the single scull first, explaining the parts and basic techniques while she nodded along, absorbing everything with an athlete's focus. When our hands met on the oar, demonstrating the proper grip, an electric current shot up my arm. I pulled back too quickly, nearly dropping the oar entirely. "Sorry. Static," I mumbled. Her smile said she didn't believe me. "So, when do I get in?" "Eager, aren't we?" "Today we start on the erg." Her disappointment was comically evident. "So what now?" "Rowing machine. You don't just hop in a boat and go Washington. That's how people end up swimming instead of rowing." "How do you know my last name?" Her head tilted, curiosity replacing disappointment. Damn, I hadn't even realized I'd said it. "I looked you up after the survey. Professional interest." "Professional, huh?" She smirked, following me into the boathouse where the rowing machines waited in neat rows. For the next hour, I guided her through proper form on the ERG, trying to ignore how perfectly her body moved through each stroke. She learned quickly, her swimming background evident in her natural rhythm and core strength. When I placed my hands on her shoulders to correct her posture, I could feel heat radiating through the thin material of her jacket. "You're a natural," I admitted as she completed another set. "And I've got a good teacher." Her breathing was controlled but deep, a thin sheen of sweat making her skin glow and the light streaming through the boathouse windows. After the training session, I surprised both of us by pulling a small cooler from my truck. "Hungry?" "I packed enough for 2, just in case you showed." Her smile widened. "Just in case, huh?" We sat on the dock with our legs dangling over the edge, sharing turkey sandwiches and apple slices as the sun climbed higher. The air held that particular autumn crispness that makes everything taste better. "So, why did you stop competing?" she asked between bites. The question caught me off guard. Most people avoided asking directly. What makes you think I stopped?" "In a way you watch the water. Like you miss being on it more than in front of it?" I stared at my half-eaten sandwich. Injuries. A broken rib that never healed quite right. Then life happens, you know. Dreams adjust. She nodded, not pushing further. "Well, for what it's worth, I think you're an amazing coach. And after one session, I'm an excellent judge of character." She leaned back on her palms, face tilted toward the sun. "Plus, I Googled you too. 3-time national champion Sarah Kelly." Her admission made me laugh. "So, we're both stalkers then. And just thorough researchers." Her eyes met mine, and something shifted in the air between us. Before I could analyze the feeling, she leaned forward suddenly. My heart stopped, thinking she might kiss me. Instead, she reached past me, plucking a fallen leaf from my hair with gentle fingers. "Autumn's coming for you," she whispered, her face inches from mine as she showed me the crimson leaf. I swallowed hard. "Looks like it." As she pulled back, her fingertips brushed my cheek in what might have been an accident, but felt intentional. I caught her hand without thinking, holding it against my skin for just a moment longer than I should have. Her eyes widened slightly, pupils dilating. For 3 heartbeats we stayed frozen like that. The world narrowed to the small space between us and the sound of water lapping gently against the dock. Then Catherine's voice rang out from the boathouse, breaking the spell. "Sarah? We've got the juniors arriving in 20. I dropped Molly's hand, reality crashing back. "Same time Thursday?" I asked, my voice embarrassingly husky. She stood, brushing invisible crumbs from her shorts. "And I wouldn't miss it." As she walked away, I realized I was already counting the hours until Thursday morning. I've always loved routine. The perfect stroke replicated 1,000 times, muscles memorizing what the mind no longer needs to direct. And now Molly was becoming part of that routine. Thursday mornings, Tuesday afternoons, Sunday at dawn, when the lake belonged only to us. 3 weeks of training, and she moved from the ergometer to the water with a grace that made other coaches stare. Natural talent was rare enough. Natural talent with discipline was gold. Tour form is improving, I said as we brought the boat in after our 6th session together. What I didn't say, I couldn't stop watching the perfect arch of her back, the way her shoulders flexed with each pull. High praise from Coach Kelly. Her smile lit something in me that had been dark for too long. Soon I'll be good enough to race. That's months of training away. I secured the skull to its rack, avoiding her eyes, but at this rate, maybe by spring. I'll take that bet. She reached past me for her water bottle, her arm brushing mine. These small contacts had become our silent language, fingers lingering during equipment handoffs, shoulders touching as we reviewed technique videos. Each touch brief enough to deny, long enough to matter. In the boathouse, she disappeared into the locker room while I checked schedules for the next day's juniors. The autumn afternoon streamed through the high windows, dust motes dancing in the golden light, everything peaceful until Catherine materialized beside me, arms crossed over her chest. Dangerous waters, Sarah. Her voice was low, eyes flickering toward the locker room. She's a promising athlete. I kept my tone professional. I'd be competition ready by... Put the shit. Catherine had known me too long for pretense. When you get that look in your eyes, same as with Diane. The name hit like a slap. Diane, my former athlete, my former everything. That's ancient history, I muttered, shuffling papers unnecessarily. 3 years isn't ancient, and the pattern isn't either. She softened slightly. Just be careful. Student-coach relationships are messy enough without your intensity. She walked away as Molly emerged from the locker room, hair damp from her shower, that citrus scent following her. Everything okay? Molly asked, catching my expression. Fine. I forced a smile. Actually, I need to check inventory. Rain check on coffee? Her disappointment was visible, but she nodded. Thursday, then... I watched her leave, Catherine's warning echoing. Maybe she was right. Maybe distance was smarter. But Thursday arrived, and so did Molly, earlier than usual. I found her already at the dock, staring intently at her reflection in the water. Eager today? I called out. She startled, oddly jumpy. Just ready to improve my time. Something was off. Her usual easy confidence seemed fractured. On the water, she rode with unusual aggression, pushing beyond the training plan I'd created. Ease up, and shouted from the coaching launch. You'll burn out before we reach the halfway mark. She ignored me, rowing harder, faster, her technique sacrificed for raw power. When we finally returned to dock, she was pale, breathing hard. What was that about? I demanded, helping her secure the boat. Nothing. Just pushing myself. That's not pushing, that's punishing. Talk to me. Her eyes met mine, troubled. I had a weird experience last night. In my bathroom mirror? Your mirror? She laughed nervously. This sounds crazy. But I was getting ready for bed, and my reflection, it moved wrong, like it was a half-second behind me, or making slightly different movements. A chill ran through me despite the warm afternoon. I probably just tired eyes. Yeah. She didn't sound convinced. Anyway, sorry about today. I'll stick to the plan Thursday. Later that evening, I was locking up when Catherine approached again. She's good, Catherine admitted grudgingly, watching Molly's car pull away. But I've seen how this story ends. Fence, you don't know her. I know you. Catherine's voice softened. When the way you invest everything. The crash when it falls apart. It's just coaching. Even to my own ears, the lie was transparent. Sarah, she placed a hand on my arm. Diane almost destroyed you. She used your training, your connections, then walked away once she had what she wanted. Molly's different. The words slipped out before I could stop them. Catherine sighed. They always are, until they aren't. That night, I dreamed of water, of Molly rowing away from me, her reflection in the lake turning to look back even as she faced forward. I woke disoriented, sheets twisted around my legs, Catherine's warnings and Molly's mirror story tangled in my mind. The next day at training, Molly pushed herself harder than ever. Something had changed. She rowed with a precision that hadn't been there before, as if overnight she'd gained months of experience. "Where did that come from?" I asked, as we carried equipment inside. She looked genuinely confused. "What do you mean?" "Whined your technique. It's advanced suddenly." "Oh," she shrugged. I've been watching videos, studying." After she left, I found myself standing before the boathouse's full-length mirror. Stupid superstition. I waved an arm experimentally. My reflection waved back, perfectly synchronized. Of course it did. But as I turned away, just at the edge of my vision, I could have sworn it held the position a beat too long. I spun back, nothing unusual. That night, I called Molly on impulse. "Want to grab dinner tomorrow, my place? I think we should discuss your training plan for competition prep." There was a moment of silence before her answer. I'd like that very much." The warmth in her voice made my heart race. Catherine's warnings be damned. My apartment wasn't much. A single bedroom overlooking the river, minimalist furnishings and walls lined with rowing medals and photographs. I'd never been one for decorating, preferring functionality over style. But as I prepared for Molly's visit, I found myself fussing over details I normally ignored. Fresh flowers in a vase I didn't remember buying. Wine breathing on the counter. Chicken piccata simmering on the stove, the one dish I could cook reliably. The knock came at 7 sharp. I wiped suddenly damp palms on my jeans before opening the door. Molly stood there holding a bottle of wine, her blonde hair loose around her shoulders, instead of in its usual practical bun. She wore a simple blue dress that matched her eyes and made my carefully chosen, casual but nice outfit feel inadequate. "And you look different," I managed, stepping aside to let her in. "A good different?" Her smile held a hint of nervousness I rarely saw on the water. Very good different." She wandered my living room, studying the photographs while I poured wine. Action shots from competitions, medal ceremonies, team photos, the story of my life told through captured moments. "So many achievements," she murmured, stopping before a framed photo from my final championship. "But no personal photos? Family? Friends?" I handed her a glass. Not much of a family person. And most friends are in the rowing world. And sounds lonely. She said it without judgment, a simple observation. And I prefer focused. I gestured toward the small balcony. "Food needs a few more minutes." "Want to sit outside?" We stood side by side at the railing, watching the river below catch the sunset's colors. The silence between us felt comfortable until she broke it with unexpected directness. "Catherine doesn't like me very much." I nearly choked on my wine. "Catherine doesn't like anyone much. Since she especially doesn't like me around you." Molly's eyes stayed fixed on the water. There's history there." It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. "When we dated briefly, years ago." "And?" "And nothing. We work better as colleagues than partners." "She's worried about you." Molly finally looked at me. She cornered me yesterday to clarify the nature of our relationship. Heat rushed to my face. She had no right. "It's okay." Molly's hand covered mine on the railing. "Told her I was just learning to row." "And is that all this is?" The question slipped out before I could stop it. Her fingers tightened on mine. "Oh, no. But I need to tell you something first." My stomach nodded. Here it came. She was married, moving away, not interested. I braced myself. "I got divorced last year," she said instead. "Oh, not what I expected. I'm sorry." "Don't be. He never understood." She trailed off, staring into her wine glass. "I was a competitive swimmer for 12 years, Olympic trials twice. He acted supportive, but resented every morning I got up at 4 to train, every weekend at meets." "A non-athlete's curse," I murmured. "And they can't understand the drive." "Exactly." Her eyes lit with recognition. And after we married, he started scheduling things during my training times. Small things at first, brunches, family visits, then bigger conflicts. When I missed Olympic qualification by 0.3 seconds, he seemed almost relieved. I understood immediately. Because then you could be normal. Yes. The word carried years of frustration. So quit swimming 2 months later. Tried to be what he wanted, but... And can't erase that part of yourself, I finished. The discipline, the focus, the need to push limits. It doesn't just disappear. 3 years of trying to be someone else. She drained her glass. When I saw you with that survey, something clicked. Like recognizing a member of the same rare species. The timer buzzed in the kitchen, breaking the moment. Over dinner, she asked about my championship days. About the injury that ended my competitive career. I found myself telling her things I rarely shared. The rib fracture that never healed properly. The way breathing still hurt during cold weather. How coaching was fulfilling but different. Do you miss it? She asked. And being on the water competitively? Every damn day. The honesty surprised us both. What about Diane? The question hung in the air. Catherine mentioned her. The food turned tasteless in my mouth. Former athlete. Former relationship. She wanted Olympic training. And I gave her everything. Technique, contacts, recommendation letters. Once she secured her spot with the national team coach, she decided our relationship was a complication. Molly reached across the table, her fingers intertwining with mine. Her loss. After dinner, I showed her my small collection of rowing books and videos. As she examined a technical manual, I watched her profile in the warm lamplight, the curve of her neck, the slight furrow of concentration between her brows. Why did you invite me here tonight, Sarah? She asked suddenly, not looking up from the book. The directness caught me off guard. And told you to discuss your training? And the truth. She closed the book, turning to face me fully. My heart hammered against my ribs. Because I can't stop thinking about you, and it terrifies me. Her expression softened. Why terrifying? And because I've been here before. Because athlete-coach relationships are messy. Because you're just finding yourself after your divorce, and I'm... You're what? Afraid of being someone's transition experiment. There it was, my deepest fear laid bare. She stepped closer, close enough that I could smell her perfume, see the subtle flecks of darker blue in her irises. And I've never been more certain of anything in my life than how I feel when I'm with you, she whispered. She leaned forward, and for a heart-stopping moment, I thought she would kiss me. Instead, she reached up and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, her touch lingering on my cheek. But I won't rush you. When you're ready to trust this, I'll be here. As she gathered her purse to leave, I felt simultaneously relieved and disappointed. At the door, she paused. And about those mirror incidents. Her voice had changed, uncertain again. And they've been getting more frequent. Sometimes I feel like I'm watching myself from outside my body. Have you seen a doctor? Concern replaced everything else. Not yet. It sounds too crazy. She smiled weakly. Just stress, probably. After she left, I stood in my bathroom, staring at my reflection. For a brief, unsettling moment, I could have sworn it smiled before I did. The weeks blurred together as autumn deepened, leaves falling into the lake like nature's confetti. Molly progressed faster than any athlete I'd ever coached, achieving in months what took others years. I entered her name for the regional qualifiers in spring. Ambitious. But she had that rare quality coaches dream about. You're sure I'm ready? She asked during our morning session, where she'd just broken her personal record. More than ready, I assured her, making notes on my clipboard. Honor technique is nearly flawless. What I didn't say, watching her row had become mesmerizing. The fluid power, the perfect harmony with the water, it was like witnessing artistry in motion, something I once possessed and lost. Catherine noticed too. She's unnaturally good, she commented one afternoon after Molly left. Almost like she's been rowing for years. She's a former competitive swimmer, I reminded her. Different muscles, different technique. Catherine's eyes narrowed. Has she told you anything about her swimming career? Seems strange I can't find records of her competitions. I hadn't actually looked, I realized. Something about Molly made me forget my usual caution. You're investigating her now? I tried to keep my tone light. Someone should be. She walked away, leaving me unsettled. Later that week, Molly collapsed during training. One minute she was executing perfect strokes, the next slumped over in the boat, oars dragging in the water. I'd never reached someone so fast, my launch practically flying across the lake. Molly, can you hear me? I pulled alongside her skull, heart pounding. She raised her head slowly, eyes unfocused. What happened? You tell me, you just dropped. I helped her transfer to my launch, securing her boat to tow back. And I remember starting the timing drill and then, nothing. She pressed her fingers to her temples. It's been happening more often. Blank spots? That's it. We're getting you checked out. I turned the launch toward shore, fear making my voice sharper than intended. This isn't normal. And no hospitals. Her tone changed suddenly, harder, more commanding. Even her posture straightened. And I'm fine now. I stared at her, taken aback by the transformation. Molly, you just blacked out on the water. You could have capsized, drowned. Instead I said I'm fine. She placed her hand on mine, but the gesture felt different, calculated rather than warm, and just pushed too hard. It won't happen again. Back at the boathouse, she seemed herself again, apologetic, even embarrassed. But something had shifted, leaving me with a lingering unease I couldn't shake. That evening, I finally searched for records of Molly's swimming career. Nothing under Molly Washington. Expanding the search to nearby states yielded nothing. It was as if her competitive swimming history didn't exist. Before I could dig deeper, my phone buzzed with her name. Can I come over? Her voice sounded small, vulnerable in a way I'd rarely heard. I think I'm ready to talk about what's happening to me. 20 minutes later, she sat on my couch, hands wrapped around a mug of tea, looking smaller somehow. Gone was both the confident athlete and the strangely commanding woman from the boat. This was someone scared. And I lied about swimming competitively. She began without preamble. And I did swim, but only recreationally. Why lie about that? And I wanted to impress you. She stared into her mug. But that's not what's important. The blackouts, the mirror incidents. They started after my divorce finalized. At first just moments of disorientation. Then gaps in my memory. Finding clothes I don't remember buying. Notes in my handwriting I don't recall writing. A chill ran through me. Molly, that sounds serious. There's more. She looked up, eyes brimming with tears. Sometimes I feel like there's someone else inside me, taking control. And she's better at everything than I am. More confident, more athletic. She's the one who's been getting better at rowing so quickly. I moved closer, taking her hands in mine. Oh, we need to get you help. A neurologist maybe? No. Fear flashed across her face. And they'll think I'm crazy. Maybe I am crazy. And you're not crazy. I squeezed her hands. But something's wrong, and ignoring it won't help. She leaned toward me suddenly, her lips pressing against mine with unexpected intensity. For a moment I froze, surprised, before responding to the kiss, my hand moving to her cheek, her hair drawing her closer. When we finally broke apart, her eyes had changed, darker, more confident. Her posture had shifted subtly. I've wanted to do that since the first day, she said, her voice slightly different, the same tone from the boat earlier. Molly? I pulled back slightly. She smiled, tracing a finger along my jaw. Don't worry so much, coach. I know exactly what I'm doing. Before I could process the change, she kissed me again, more demanding this time. My body responded even as my mind raced with confusion. Her hands moved with surprising confidence, as if she knew exactly how to touch me. Later, lying in the darkness of my bedroom, I watched her sleeping form beside me, troubled by the transformation I'd witnessed. One moment vulnerable and frightened, the next assertive and almost predatory. Both entirely Molly, yet somehow different. I slipped out of bed and went to the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face. In the mirror, my reflection looked troubled. What are you doing, Sarah? I whispered to myself. This is exactly what Catherine warned about. But this was different from Diane. This wasn't about ambition or using me for advancement. This was about something more troubling, something happening to Molly that neither of us understood. When I returned to bed, she was sitting up, watching me with that same intense gaze. "Everything okay?" she asked, her voice once again the Molly I'd first met. "Just thinking." I slid back under the covers. "Tomorrow we should talk about getting you some help." She nodded, settling against my shoulder. I'm scared, Sarah. What if there's really something wrong with me?" I kissed her forehead, pushing away my own fears. "Whatever it is, you're not facing it alone anymore." She fell asleep quickly, but I stayed awake, watching the moonlight play across her features, wondering which Molly would wake beside me in the morning. Morning arrived with sheets of rain hammering against the windows. I woke to find Molly already dressed, staring out at the downpour, a cup of coffee cradled in her hands. "How long have you been up?" I asked, my voice still rough with sleep. "A while." She turned, smiling, but something was off, a tightness around her eyes I hadn't noticed before. "And made coffee. Hope that's okay." More than okay. I sat up, studying her. This morning she seemed blended somehow, not entirely the vulnerable Molly from last night's confession, not quite the confident version who had kissed me first, something in between. "About last night." "Which part?" Her smile turned playful. "Chantine, the part where I told you I might be losing my mind, or the part where we ended up in bed?" "Both, actually." I reached for the mug she offered. No regrets about the second part. "But the first part, Molly, we need to get you help." She sat on the edge of the bed, her expression clouding. "And I made an appointment. Neurologist at Duke. Next week." Relief washed through me. "That's good. That's really good." "But training continues until then," she said firmly. "I won't let this stop me." I wanted to argue but recognized the determination in her eyes, the same look I'd had when doctors told me my competitive days were over. "So okay, but I'm watching you closely. Any sign of trouble, we stop immediately." The week that followed was strange in its normalcy. We trained daily, careful choreography of professional and personal boundaries. On the water, I was her coach. Off it, something more intimate was forming between us. No more blackouts occurred, and I began to wonder if the worst was behind us. Then Catherine cornered me in the equipment room, expression grim. "We need to talk about Molly." I sighed. "If this is another warning..." It's not what you think." She handed me her tablet. I looked deeper into her background. The screen showed a psychological journal article. "What am I looking at?" "Third page. Case study number 4. I skimmed until I found it. A case study of a female patient with dissociative identity disorder triggered by emotional trauma. The patient's swimming achievements were mentioned as accomplishments of the alternate personality. "Then this could be anyone," I said, though my stomach nodded. "An initials match. MW, and the timeline fits her divorce." I handed back the tablet. "Even if it's her, it's not our business. She's seeing a specialist next week." "Sarah." Catherine's voice softened. "I'm worried about you both. Her condition, if this is her, is serious. And you're emotionally involved now. And I can handle it." "Can you? Which Molly are you falling for? The vulnerable one or the confident one? Because from what I've observed, they might as well be different people." Her words hit too close to my own unspoken fears. "That's enough, Catherine." That evening, I couldn't focus, Catherine's questions echoing in my mind. When Molly texted asking to come over, I almost said no. But concern won out over caution. She arrived, drenched from the continuing rain, her hair plastered to her head, eyes wild. "I need to show you something," she said, brushing past me into the apartment. "What's wrong? Did something happen?" She headed straight for my bathroom, turning on the light and staring at her reflection. "Watch," she commanded. I moved behind her, confused. In the mirror, our reflections stared back, me bewildered, her intense. "I don't see anything unusual." "Wait for it," she whispered. Then it happened. While Molly remained perfectly still beside me, her reflection moved, a subtle shift of posture, a slight tilt of the head. Most disturbing, a smile that Molly's actual face wasn't forming. I stepped back, shock pulsing through me. That's not possible. Say she's getting stronger. Molly's voice trembled. She talks to me now. Who is she? I asked, unable to look away from the mirror where the reflection now matched Molly again. She calls herself Michelle. She says she's the real me, the one I've been suppressing all my life. A single tear slid down her cheek. She's been keeping a journal, plans, thoughts, things about you. About me? Molly reached into her bag, pulling out a small notebook. She thinks I'm too weak for you, that she's the one who should be with you. I took the journal with shaking hands, flipping it open. The handwriting was recognizably Molly's, yet different, sharper, more decisive strokes. The content made my blood run cold. Detailed observations about me, about my coaching style, my apartment, things we'd never discussed. And Sarah needs someone who matches her intensity, I read aloud. Not this pathetic version who can't even stand up to her ex-husband. I'll show her what real passion looks like. Keep reading, Molly whispered. I turned the page. I'm getting stronger every day. Soon I won't need to share this body at all. I closed the journal, a chill running through me. Molly, this is... Thunder crashed outside, and the lights flickered once, twice, before going out completely. In the sudden darkness, I reached for her, finding her hand cold and trembling. Sarah, she whispered, her voice tight with fear. She's here. She's trying to... Lightning flashed, illuminating the bathroom for a split second. In that brief moment of light, I saw Molly's face contorted in a silent struggle, eyes wide with panic. Then darkness again, and when she spoke next, her voice had changed, deeper, more controlled. Sarah, where are the candles? Let's make the best of this storm. I backed away, fumbling for my phone to use as a light. When I turned it on, Molly stood differently, shoulders back, head tilted with confident ease. Everything about her body language had transformed. Molly? I asked cautiously. She smiled, a predatory curve I'd seen only glimpses of before. Not exactly. Though I'm not surprised it took a blackout for you to finally see me clearly. Michelle. The name felt strange on my tongue. And to one and only. She stepped closer. Don't look so frightened, Sarah. I'm still Molly, just the version she never had the courage to be. The version who deserves you. And need to let Molly come back, I said, maintaining distance between us despite the close quarters of the darkened bathroom. Michelle, or whatever this version of Molly called herself, laughed. She'll have her turn. But right now, you and I finally have some alone time. She moved closer, her movements fluid and confident. Don't you prefer me anyway? I'm the one who rose like a champion. I'm the one who kisses you without hesitation. I want to speak to Molly. My voice remained steady despite my racing heart. Her expression hardened. She's weak. She let a mediocre man destroy her self-worth, gave up swimming because he wanted a normal wife. She spat the word normal, like it was poison, and I protected her. I emerged when she couldn't handle the pain anymore. The lights flickered back on, revealing her changed expression fully. Same face, completely different person. Fascinating lecture, I said, edging toward the door. Moonput, Molly has a neurologist appointment next week, and you're going to let her keep it. A neurologist can't fix what isn't broken. She followed me into the living room. I'm not a tumor or a chemical imbalance. I'm her strength, her truth. We circled each other like wary predators until the couch stood between us. This isn't a negotiation, I said. Molly needs help. Molly needs me. Her voice softened, suddenly persuasive. And so do you, Sarah. Who do you think pushed her to approach you that day? Who gave her the courage to kiss you first? She would have let you slip away otherwise. The realization hit me. Every confident move, every bold decision I'd attributed to Molly had been this other personality. The woman I was falling for was, what? A composite of two people sharing one body? This isn't right, I whispered, for either of you. It's worked for us so far. She sat on the couch, suddenly casual. And I handle the hard parts, she enjoys the benefits. Perfect arrangement. It's on until you decided you wanted to take over completely. She shrugged. Evolution. Survival of the fittest. I studied her, Molly's face, Molly's body, but everything else fundamentally altered. From her posture to her speech patterns, she was a different person wearing Molly's skin. The wrongness of it made my stomach clench. "I want to help you both," I said carefully. "But that starts with the appointment next week. Will you allow that?" Her eyes narrowed. "On one condition. You coach me, not her, me, for the regional championships." "That's 2 months away." "Plenty of time," she smiled, confidence radiating from her. "I'll win it too. I have her muscle memory plus my focus. I won't collapse under pressure like she would." "And after you win?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Then we see who's stronger, who deserves to stay." The casual way she discussed essentially erasing Molly sent ice through my veins. Yet part of me, the competitor, the coach who recognized rare talent, couldn't help admiring her determination. The part that made me dangerous in this situation. "I need to think," I said finally. "Well, take your time." She stood, walking toward me with Molly's body but entirely different movements. "But remember, I'm the one who understands your drive, your need to excel. Molly sympathizes with your loss. I would have helped you fight to stay competitive." She reached out, touching my cheek with fingers that felt like Molly's but somehow weren't. We're more alike than you want to admit." Before I could respond, her eyes rolled back suddenly. She swayed, grabbing the couch for support. When she looked up again, the confusion and fear in her eyes told me Molly had returned. "Sarah?" Her voice trembled. "What happened? Did she—" I caught her as her knees buckled, guiding her to sit. "It's okay, you're back now." "And she was here, wasn't she?" "Michelle." Tears filled her eyes. "What did she say to you?" I hesitated, then told her everything. The conversation, the bargain, the threat to eliminate her completely. She listened in silence, tears streaming down her face. "And losing control," she whispered when I finished. "She's getting stronger." "A neurologist will help," I assured her, though doubt gnawed at me. "What if it's too late by then?" Her hands clutched mine desperately. "I'm scared to go to sleep. Scared she'll take over and never let me come back." I held her close as she cried, the rain still drumming against the windows, matching her tears. Eventually, exhaustion claimed her, and she fell asleep in my arms on the couch. I watched her face carefully, looking for any sign of Michelle's return, but she slept peacefully. My phone buzzed. "Catherine, how is she?" No preamble, just concern. "And you were right," I admitted quietly. "Why it's complicated. So need help, Sarah, professional help. For both of you. An appointment's next week. And until then?" I looked down at Molly's sleeping form. "I'm handling it." "That's what worries me." Catherine's sigh came through clearly. "Just be careful. Both personalities might have feelings for you, but they want very different things." After hanging up, I gently woke Molly, insisting she needed proper rest in a bed. As we walked to the bedroom, she stopped at the bathroom, staring fearfully at the mirror. "I can't look," she whispered. I stood beside her, our reflections perfectly normal in the glass. "See? Just us?" She nodded, unconvinced. Later, as she drifted toward sleep beside me, she murmured, "If she wins at regionals, if she takes over completely, promise you won't forget me?" I kissed her forehead, heart breaking. "That won't happen." But in the darkness, doubt crept in. The regional championships were 2 months away. Michelle was growing stronger daily, and part of me, the part I didn't want to acknowledge, was curious to see just how good she could be on the water. 6 months can change everything or nothing at all. For us, it transformed our entire world. The neurologist's diagnosis confirmed what we already knew: dissociative identity disorder, triggered by the emotional trauma of Molly's controlling marriage and divorce. What we didn't expect was his approach to treatment. Integration isn't always the goal, Dr. Reeves had explained during our 3rd session. I'd started attending as support and stayed as part of the solution. And sometimes it's about cooperation between alters, communication rather than elimination. Molly, the primary personality, had initially rejected this idea. "I want her gone," she'd insisted. Michelle, the protective alter who emerged during the divorce, had her own opinion. "And not disappearing just because you're uncomfortable with your own strength," she'd snapped during one session where she'd suddenly emerged. The regional championships became our unlikely proving ground. We made a deal with Dr. Reeves's guidance. Michelle would row the preliminary races, Molly the finals. They would learn to transition consciously, rather than through emotional triggers or blackouts. The morning of the championship finals dawned crisp and clear, the lake a perfect mirror reflecting the spring sky. I stood on the dock watching Molly prepare her scull, her movements confident but distinctly her own. Not Michelle's aggressive efficiency, but something more fluid, more harmonious with the water. Nervous? I asked, helping her adjust her rigging. Terrified. She smiled, the expression pure Molly, but ready. Catherine approached, clipboard in hand. Weather conditions are perfect. The Wisconsin team looks strong, but nothing you can't handle. The fact that Catherine now spoke to Molly, knowing exactly which personality she was addressing, showed how far we'd all come. From skepticism to acceptance, fear to understanding. Any sign of Michelle this morning? Catherine asked quietly as Molly walked away to check her oars. Not yet, but they've been transitioning more smoothly. Less disorientation. Catherine nodded. It's still the strangest damn thing I've ever encountered. But? And he works for them. For her. She shrugged. Who am I to judge? As start time approached, I found Molly doing her final mental preparation away from the crowd. She looked up as I approached, her blue eyes clear and focused. Sarah. She reached for my hand. Thank you. For not giving up on either of us. And never crossed my mind. I squeezed her fingers. Oh, you've done the hard part, both of you. She smiled, then her expression shifted subtly. I recognized the change immediately, not a complete switch to Michelle, but something new, a blending of strength and vulnerability, confidence and compassion. When ready, she said, her voice neither entirely Molly's nor Michelle's, but somehow both. The race itself was beautiful, a perfect display of power, technique, and strategy. She moved through the water like she was part of it, each stroke propelling her forward with an efficiency that left spectators murmuring. It wasn't Michelle's raw aggression or Molly's technical precision. It was both, working in harmony. When she crossed the finish line first by a full boat length, the crowd erupted. I found myself shouting until my voice gave out, pride swelling in my chest like a physical thing. Later, medal around her neck, she found me at the edge of the celebration. Who am I talking to? I asked softly, though I already knew. Both of us. Neither of us. She smiled. Just me. We moved into our lakeside house the following week. The wall facing the water was almost entirely windows, filling the space with shifting reflections that reminded us daily of our journey. Molly, just Molly now, though with aspects of Michelle integrated into her personality, resumed her training with renewed purpose. Dr. Reeves called it operative integration, not the elimination of an alter, but a conscious blending of strengths. Michelle's confidence and drive merged with Molly's compassion and technical precision. The blackouts stopped. The mirror incidents faded into memory. On our 1-year anniversary, I found her standing before our bedroom mirror, studying her reflection thoughtfully. Any visitors? I asked, wrapping my arms around her waist. No. She leaned back against me. Just me, all of me. I kissed her neck, breathing in the citrus scent that had first caught my attention that rainy day with the surveys. And I never asked, why did you stop at my survey table that day? Of all the people who walked past, why did you stop? She turned in my arms, her expression suddenly mischievous. Oh, you really don't remember, do you? Remember what? We met before, years earlier at the national championships. She touched my cheek gently. So we're competing. I was there watching a friend. You were focused, intense. I tried to talk to you, but you barely noticed me. The memory flickered vaguely. That was you? That was me. When I saw you with that survey, I thought fate was giving me a second chance. Her smile widened. Michelle thought it was a sign too. I laughed, amazed at how perfectly our broken pieces had fit together. So both of you conspired against me from the beginning? And let's just say we finally agreed on something. She kissed me softly. And now we agree on everything that matters. Outside our window, 2 rowers glided past in perfect synchronization, their oars cutting through the water in flawless rhythm, just like us, 2 distinct forces working as one, moving forward together, creating something stronger than either could alone. "Oh, ace you to the dock?" she whispered against my lips. "Sure on." As we ran down to the water, laughing like children, I realized that sometimes the most beautiful reflections come not from what we see in the mirror, but from what we see in each other, all the broken, healing, perfect parts that make us whole.